Hey, what's going on guys? It's me, Aiden, from Cartoon Apocalypse, and welcome back to Turner Tuesday. Now this video is talking about Blake's character, and then we sort of get into the school system on Ilaria, so that's also at the end. Now this episode was a little bit different because Ralunix is the one who actually came up with Blake, so I let them actually create the character sheet, so it's more of just going over the character sheet versus actually creating the character, so that's a little bit different, and Callisto is most likely going to be pretty similar to this stream as well. As always, I stream on Sundays, 1:30 p.m. EST to 3:30 p.m. EST, so make sure you come if you're interested. As always, time codes are down in the comments below if you want to skip around. Now, since this is another character sheet, I'm not going to have like a little break intermission. I'm just going to have the time codes to different sections, so it's just going to cut from one section to the next without me saying anything. As far as what we're doing next stream, we are going to be designing sort of the magic system. Now, we're probably also going to have to talk about that in the Discord, so if you haven't joined the Discord, highly recommended, but we're likely going to have to sort of discuss it and break down all the rules because that's pretty important. But yeah, let's go ahead and hop right into this video. So the very first thing that I do is show off Blake's design, for those of you guys who haven't seen it. Here is Blake. I want to, can you update the docs? I'll have to go through and update the Google Docs and stuff like that, but that's not what we'll be doing. Yeah, all the information is on the Discord, so go join the Discord because that is very good. Yeah, okay, so basically here is Blake's design. Here's Callisto over here too. So all of this art was done by Ralunix. It looked very good. This was actually was this one the first one? I can't remember if this or this was the first art that they submitted. I feel like it was this one, but I'm not sure. But I love this whole thing. It's just it's just amazing. Okay, now all the sections after this, except for the very last one, are actually on the character sheet. So this is the last little break from me. And first, we are going to be sort of talking about what I call Blake's eye section. So go check it out. I like this part though, needed for reading. I think that's funny. Like seeing him with glasses, like he's just like, hold on, let me pull up my glasses to read this document. I think that would be so funny. Because it's just like you see, just when you look at Blake, you don't imagine him needing glasses, but then he pulls out glasses and I feel like that would be so funny. I want to see him in glasses. Level of eye contact. He avoids eye contact, and if he does, like, get into an eye contact with somebody, it's like a death stare, which I love that, because it would just be like, I can imagine somebody, I don't know who, maybe like just an old lady on the street. She would be like, hey, young man, could you help me with this? And Blake would just be like, fine, whatever. And then she would be like, thank you. Hey, look at me when I'm talking to you. Eye contact. And then she would just like keep pestering him about it. And then Blake would be like, you know what? Fine, here's my eye contact. And it's just like this death stare. The lady gets super scared and runs away. Okay, so speech impediments. Rhoticism. So basically, this is when you can't pronounce your R's. Self-treated, I assume this means that he doesn't have this anymore. But it's interesting because we haven't really seen a character like this before. And when angry, he would press on the R more. So I mean, as far as right now, we wouldn't notice it, but maybe if we went into his backstory in an episode before, we would see his character and he wouldn't be able to pronounce his R's very well, which is interesting because, again, we don't really see that in shows. Okay, so laughter. Before, any jokes with a good punchline, but now he would just almost smile. And okay, so basically the explanation for this is that he's just sort of dead inside right now. Because Callisto was sort of the light in his world, but now it's just sort of like that light's gone. And so he's super sad. He just wants to find any way possible to get Callisto back. So now it's just like he doesn't find anything funny. He's just super depressed pretty much. But before, you know, he liked fun jokes with punchlines, and maybe Callisto said stuff like that. But now it's just like, oh, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about anything other than Callisto. So, yeah, poor Blake. Yeah, you see, this is why I couldn't. When Ralunix was suggesting ideas for Blake, I just couldn't make him the main villain. He just doesn't seem like main villain material. A main villain needs to be somebody who's actually willing to go all the way. not somebody who just, you know, is like not somebody who the characters can like. A villain has to be somebody that the characters want to be defeated. Because if you get people actually liking Blake and he was the main villain, then it's like the characters don't know who to root for. So that's why I wanted Blake to not be a main villain and for him to be sort of like a villain, but not really at the end. Describe their smile. He rarely smiles at all, but very warm if he does. So he's very, like, get to the point. Just let me live my life right now because I have more important things to do later. And that's as far as, like, you know, saving his husband, Callisto. Okay, so he's emotionally constipated, which means he has a lot of emotions built up and he needs an outlet to get them out. And so he has all these emotions in him, and that's sort of why he's so, you know, focused on getting Callisto back. And he cannot be read. Just like if you have a blank face all the time, it's hard to read somebody. So that's why he just keeps everything inside. Yeah, he's emotionless, lost in thought, and has a slight frown. Who were their role models growing up? His grandmother. She was very nice, yet a determined old lady. You know, maybe she was the one who did the death stare. Well, no, probably not now. That would be later on. I think she's dead now. Rest in peace, grandmother. Okay, she would help anyone in need and give some amazing advice. So that may be why Blake was wanting to help people. And then the king. The king, I would assume that the king to most people is like a god because he's lived forever as far as the people are aware. And he just seems like this nice guy. So that's sort of that. Greatest regret, calling Callisto to Ilaria. And this is because just everything, he feels guilty for what he did as far as like this is true love at its core, right? It's trying to protect people even if it means giving up yourself. So he would rather have Callisto be safe than ever meet Callisto. So yeah, that's how you know it's true love. Okay, hobbies, reading, training, catching pests. Oh, okay. You never said pests are kind of like glowing fish. So like flying fish sort of thing. So it's like fishing, but instead of like a rod, you have a sword and you're slashing at the fish or something. I don't know. If they could change one thing from their past, what would it be and why? He would never call Callisto to Ilaria and would dig a hole as deep as a mountain to put the notebook in. So that sort of goes back to the thing earlier. He would rather see Callisto be safe over actually meeting him, which is hashtag true love. He feels guilty for all that is happening and believes it would have been better for Callisto to never meet him. Yep. He believes Callisto would still be on Earth safe and happy without meeting him. So yeah, that's sort of, this all ties in together. Major turning points or life beats in childhood. When his mother disappeared, so his mother just disappeared sometime. His grandmother's funeral messed him up good, and that was because he couldn't go in, I don't think, which is explained later. Choosing to be a knight so he could be there for others. So he gave up the medical field to go into actually being a knight. 3 adjectives to describe them as a child. Happy, which is a complete contrast to what he is at the moment. Determined, that makes sense, and hyperactive. That one's good too. What advice will they give to their younger self? Break those cuffs and stop nodding to what you know is wrong. I actually really like that. That's a good line. Family, father, age if living, 60 plus, occupation knight. So maybe that's, well, okay, well, let's read this. He was a kind person to everyone, so much so that he forgot about his own child. So he viewed everybody as his own child, basically, is what I'm getting from this. So then it's like, oh, well, if he views everybody as his child, then his real child doesn't have any purpose. So that's sort of too many memories of him dressing and leaving. So from Blake's eyes, it's just, you can see him put on a coat, put on his hat, and go out for knighthood work or whatever. Yeah. He's very strict, would correct any mistake in mannerisms or speech. He wouldn't even stop if he saw tears. They would not get along. So, basically, bad father figure on Blake's end. Okay, mother. Question marks. She was a seamstress. Very nice. She would work at home mostly and always care for Blake. Very soft-spoken. She couldn't pronounce her R's very well. And this is where Blake got it from. So it's like it runs in the family. Except I don't know if that's genetic or not. I didn't do research on that. So I don't know. Okay. Would stand up to the father when he would push things too far. Did not miss any event until she disappeared. She suddenly disappeared for some reason. We don't know why. Okay, siblings, none. Children, none. Extended family, grandparents, they're all deceased. Hashtag rip in peace. Not Rolandix. Blake's family. 2 uncles, 1 aunt, 3 cousins. Family's economic status, very good at the moment. So he's kind of rich right now, which is interesting. And it makes sense because he has just a bunch of armor and stuff like that. And I mean, if you're a knight, first of all, his dad was a knight. Second of all, he's a knight, or he was a knight, I guess. So that's good. How often do they see the family in a year? Not at all. He broke contact with them. Closest friends. Okay, so now we're on external relationships, which is the next main section, I guess. Closest friends, describe them. A cook in the castle. They both used to have huge night dreams together, but the cook friend got into an accident when they were small. Lost a leg, so the job would be quite hard. You can sometimes talk some sense into Blake, but Blake avoids him now, because Blake is just sort of a loner now. Hashtag rest in peace, old Blake, because now Callisto is gone and Blake is sad. What do they want from a relationship? Somebody to accept him and be able to call him out when he messes up. Able to make him want to be a better person. Funny yet straight. So basically Callisto. Yeah. Do they have a significant other? Callisto, very energetic, always had a plan, or always has a plan to have fun, always has a way to get out of trouble, knew what he wanted to eat, very kind and smart and fast to anger. Strong fighter, cunning little fella. Okay, how many people would attend their funeral? At the moment, 1. Who would that one person be? I'm kind of curious. Okay, so at this point, we are actually done with the character sheet, and we wanted to sort of talk about how the school system works, because it's kind of important, because Blake is a teacher on both Earth and Ilaria, so that's pretty important. So I think it's pretty interesting, so go check it out. As far as the school systems go in Ilaria, the school system on Earth, I would assume, is going to be like the US school systems, because that is what I am familiar with, okay? I'm sorry, that's just sort of, I'm biased, I'm sorry, I mean, I can't really do anything about where I was born, so, okay. As far as Ilaria goes, it's going to be interesting, because I have a couple ideas for this one. I think what we should end up going with is just a typical regular school up until maybe 5th or 7th grade. So it's just like you learn basic math, science, English, or well, depending on, well, yeah, I guess English and whatever. You got that typical stuff up until maybe 7th grade, let's just say, for example. Then 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, or however long it is. It's a specialized, it's like college sort of. To where like when you're in 7th grade, you choose what your career is going to be, and then you're assigned a teacher. Say for example, Luna, right? She once, okay, that could be confusing. Let's do this with a made-up character. Let's say name a character. Let's say for example, Joe is wanting to go into fine arts. That's what he wants. He's going into the fine arts career. He wants to do this for a living, right? So in 7th grade, he's like, hey, main teacher person, I want to go into fine arts. And then the teacher's like, okay, I'll submit you in there. So basically what happens is during 8th grade, he is put into a class full of fine arts students. And so Joe, he gets to know his classmates. It's the same classmates. And I would assume that it would be good because, I mean, I would assume that hopefully they all get along pretty well. So, yeah. So, anyway, that's not the point. They are put into this class, and that's the same, you get the same teacher, you have the same teacher, same classmates for the entire rest of your schooling, of your like high school career or whatever. And I don't know if there would be a college afterward, but for Joe in his fine arts career, he would be in that class and he would just focus on fine arts pretty much. Now, I would assume that there would be some extra stuff thrown in there, but for the most part, it would focus on fine arts. And then, then after high school, 12th grade or whatever, he just graduates and he has the fine arts degree or whatever. So then he can do fine arts stuff now. Yay! How would transfer students work? Well, they would just be added to the class. So, say for example, Joe was like, you know what, I don't actually like fine arts. Then he could transfer out, and that would be fine. He would just be put into a different class. But the thing is, he would be at an extreme disadvantage because he missed out on all the other stuff that the other students have done. And I guess it would depend sort of on how it works and how the cycle works. So they might try to put him into a class that's just starting, which would mean that he would have to stay at school for longer. So maybe this is how it works. Maybe depending on the course that you go to, school can be over either really quickly or it could take a long time. So for example, if you wanted to go into the medical field, right? 8th grade, you're like, okay, I'm going to go into the medical field, and you go in, and then you end up having to stay there for like 8 years. Okay, whereas the fine arts credit maybe only takes 2 years. So then some people would get out sooner than others. So then it all depends on how many teachers they have on rotation, or maybe, say for example, if Joe spends 2 years at fine arts and it's 4 years, right? He's skipping out of 2 years, so he doesn't get the fine arts thing. But he would be like, okay, you know what? I want to go be a medical student now. So he transfers into the medical course, but he would be set back to square one. So he would be put into a first year class instead of being in like a third year class where he would normally be. Yeah, Joe could be 30 and still be in school if he kept changing his mind, yeah. And I would assume that that's sort of like college. So they quit schooling, they quit general schooling at an early age and focus on like a college type of education early on. Blake was a transfer student. He went medicine, then went back to a night, yeah. They could test into a class, and depending on their level of knowledge, they could be put into a certain level of class. Okay, I like that too. Except I would assume that switching classes is probably pretty rare. Because, I mean, they know that it, like, even if it's just 1 year, you're going to be behind on all your friends. Like, say for example, you're in a friend group, right? 7th grade, you're all like, okay, let's go do this one course. And then, like, a fine arts. So Joe and his friend group, they're all like, yeah, let's go do fine arts. And then Joe changes his mind. He's like, no, actually, I don't want to. And then, so he ends up having to stay in school for a lot longer than the fine arts kids. So that's one of the reasons why switching would be seen as bad. Maybe switching is seen as a weakness, sort of. Yeah, it's probably more frowned upon. You can still switch, but most people don't do it. They pick something. The cook should be a flump named Joe. But yeah, that's it for this video. If you did enjoy, you can leave a like and subscribe for more content similar to this. As always, make sure you try to catch the streams because they're a whole lot of fun. If you can't, these videos work as well. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.